Chapter 5 The Moonwalk. Off the Wall was released in August 1979, the same month I turned 21 and took control of my own affairs, and it was definitely one of the major landmarks of my life. It meant a great deal to me because its eventual success proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that a former child star could mature into a recording artist with contemporary appeal. Off the Wall also went a step beyond the dance grooves we had cooked up. When we started the project, Quincy and I talked about how important it was to capture passion and strong feelings in a recorded performance. I still think that's what we achieved on the ballad She's Out of My Life, and to a lesser extent on Rock With You. Looking back, I can view the whole tapestry and see how Off the Wall prepared me for the work we would do on the album that became Thriller. Quincy, Rod Temperton, and many of the musicians who played on Off the Wall would help me realize a dream that I had had for a long time. Off the Wall had sold almost 6 million copies in this country, but I wanted to make an album that would be even bigger. Ever since I was a little boy, I had dreamed of creating the biggest selling record of all time. I remember going swimming as a child and making a wish before I jumped into the pool. Remember, I grew up knowing the industry, understanding goals, and being told what was and was not possible. I wanted to do something special. I'd stretch my arms out as if I were sending my thoughts right up into space. I'd make my wish, then I'd dive into the water. I'd say to myself, this is my dream, this is my wish, every time before I dive into the water. I believe in wishes and in a person's ability to make a wish come true. I really do. Whenever I saw a sunset, I would quietly make my secret wish right before the sun tucked under the western horizon and disappeared. It would seem as if the sun had taken my wish with it. I'd make it right before that last speck of light vanished. And a wish is more than a wish. It's a goal. It's something your conscious and subconscious can help make reality. I remember being in the studio once with Quincy and Rod Temperton while we were working on Thriller. I was playing a pinball machine and one of them asked me, if this album doesn't do as well as Off the Wall, will you be disappointed? I remember feeling hurt that the question was even raised. I told them Thriller had to do better than Off the Wall. I admitted that I wanted this album to be the biggest selling album of all time. They started laughing. It was a seemingly unrealistic thing to want. There were times during the Thriller project when I would get emotional or upset because I couldn't get the people working with me to see what I saw. That still happens to me sometimes. Often people just don't see what I see. They have too much doubt. You can't do your best when you're doubting yourself. If you don't believe in yourself, who will? Just doing as well as you did last time is not good enough. I think of it as the try to get what you can mentality. It doesn't require you to stretch, to grow. I don't believe in that. I believe we are powerful, but we don't use our minds to full capacity. Your mind is powerful enough to help you attain whatever you want. I knew what we could do with that record. We had a great team there, a lot of talent and good ideas, and I knew we could do anything. The success of Thriller transformed many of my dreams into reality. It did become the biggest selling album of all time, and that fact appeared on the cover of the Guinness Book of World Records. Making the Thriller album was very hard work, but it's true that you only get out of something what you put into it. I'm a perfectionist. I'll work until I drop. And I worked so hard on that album. It helped that Quincy showed great confidence in what we were doing during those sessions. I guess I had proved myself to him during our work on Off the Wall. He listened to what I had to say and helped me accomplish what I had hoped to on that album. But he showed even more faith in me during the making of Thriller. He realized I had the confidence and experience I needed to make that record, and at times he wasn't in the studio with us for that reason. I'm really very self-confident when it comes to my work. When I take on a project, I believe in it 100%. I really put my soul into it. I die for it. That's how I am. Quincy is brilliant at balancing out an album, creating the right mix of up-tempo numbers and slow ones. We started out working with Rod Temperton on songs for the Thriller album, which was originally called Starlight. I was writing songs myself while Quincy was listening to other people's songs, hoping to find just the right ones for the album. He's good at knowing what I'll like and what will work for me. We both share the same philosophy about making albums. We don't believe in B-sides or album songs. Every song should be able to stand on its own as a single, and we always push for this. I had finished some songs of my own, but I didn't give them to Quincy until I saw what had come in from other writers. The first song I had was Startin' Something, which I had written when we were doing Off the Wall, but had never given to Quincy for that album. Sometimes I have a song I've written that I really like and I just can't bring myself to present it. While we were making Thriller, I even held on to Beat It for a long time before I played it for Quincy. He kept telling me that we needed a great rock song for the album. He'd say, "Come on, where is it? I know you got it. I like my songs, but initially I'm shy about playing them for people because I'm afraid they won't like them, and that's a painful experience." He finally convinced me to let him hear what I had. I brought out Beat It and played it for him, and he went crazy. I felt on top of the world. When we were about to start work on Thriller, I called Paul McCartney in London, and this time I did say, "Let's get together and write some hits." Our collaboration produced Say, Say, Say and The Girl Is Mine. Quincy and I eventually chose The Girl Is Mine as the obvious first single from Thriller. We really didn't have much choice. When you have two strong names like that together on a song, it has to come out first or it gets played to death and overexposed. We had to get it out of the way. When I approached Paul, I wanted to repay the favor he had done me in contributing Girlfriend to Off the Wall. I wrote The Girl Is Mine, which I knew would be right for his voice and mine working together, and we also did work on Say, 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 which we would finish up later with George Martin, the great Beatles producer. Well, Say, Say, Say was co-authored by Paul, a man who could play all the instruments in the studio and score every part, and a kid, me, who couldn't. Yet we worked together as equals and enjoyed ourselves. Paul never had to carry me in that studio. The collaboration was also a real step forward for me in terms of confidence because there was no Quincy Jones watching over me to correct my mistakes. Paul and I shared the same idea of how a pop song should work, and it was a real treat to work with him. I feel that ever since John Lennon's death, he has had to live up to expectations. People had no right to hang on him. Paul McCartney has given so much to this industry and to his fans. Eventually, I would buy the ATV Music Publishing catalog, which included many of the great Lennon-McCartney songs. But most people don't know that it was Paul who introduced me to the idea of getting involved in music publishing. I was staying with Paul and Linda at their house in the country when Paul told me about his own involvement in music publishing. He handed me a little book with MPL printed on the cover. He smiled as I opened it because he knew I was going to find the contents exciting. It contained a list of all the songs Paul owns, and he'd been buying the rights to songs for a long time. I had never given the idea of buying songs any thought before. When the ATV Music Publishing catalog, which contains many Lennon-McCartney songs, went on sale, I decided to put in a bid. I consider myself a musician who is incidentally a businessman, and Paul and I had both learned the hard way about business and the importance of publishing and royalties and the dignity of songwriting. Songwriting should be treated as the lifeblood of popular music. The creative process doesn't involve time clocks or quota systems. It involves inspiration and the willingness to follow through. When I was sued by someone I had never heard of for The Girl Is Mine, I was quite willing to stand on my reputation. I stated that many of my ideas come in dreams, which some people thought was a convenient cop-out, but it's true. Our industry is so lawyer-heavy that getting sued for something you didn't do seems to be as much a part of the initiation process as winning amateur night used to be.